Okay gang, as I'm working on this Mustang and getting it prepped for primer, I'm cleaning up things, and one of these things is the dash. And today I took out the wiring harness, and I'm going to take out the ignition switch, and I'm going to show you how to do that without it being a problem. But I also want to show you that when you take out the wiring harness, go ahead and label all the ends of each wire that you take out. In this case I used masking tape and a Sharpie, and I numbered them accordingly to the instrument cluster or any corresponding wire that they connected to. For an example, this connects to another wire elsewhere in the cluster, and I just used the letter D, and this one I think there's a letter B. So just find a different sequence or whatever works for you, and make sure you label these things. But let me get set up, and I'm going to show you how to take out the ignition switch without destroying it. Okay, so as you know, these old style ignition switches were a lot different than what you find in modern cars. And I'll pull the key here, and I know it's hard to see, but there's a little hole right there. This is just a piece of safety wire. It's pretty stiff, but there's a little hole below the key. Now you can't take this apart without the key, or at least you can't take a functional one apart without the key. Otherwise you'd just be cutting it to pieces. But what you're going to do is turn the key to the accessory position to your left. Take this piece of wire, and you'll feel inside there's a little spring, and you push in on that spring, rotate the key more to the left, and the whole tumbler comes out. Nice and simple, not much to it. Now here's the other part that I think is pretty important. All the other knobs and stuff, like the wiper and the lights, had a retainer ring that you could unthread, and it was an internal ring, and this outer part didn't turn, but there's a little nut that turned. Well, this doesn't have that. So you might be, trying to figure out, how do I get this loose? And behind this, there's actually a spring. So let me show you. This is real easy. You push the switch or the housing forward, and this piece will move just a little bit. It doesn't have to, but you'll see. I push it forward, I rotate counterclockwise, and the whole thing comes out in my hands. You can see it's got a cam lock. There's one on each side. One's got a fat side, the other one's got a skinny side, and you can see it's got the numbers on it where it sits. And internally on this thing, it's got a fat post and a skinny post. So it only goes together one way. And there's a spring. You can see this big spring right here. So that's what keeps tension on it when you put it in and make it lock together. So there it is. Nice easy way to take out the ignition switch, and probably save you a lot of headache when you try to bust it apart with a screwdriver or a hammer or something like that. So just today's tip.